Hi, Marcia. Good night. Good night to the loyal opposition. It's very good indeed to be here. Thank
Yes.
you.
Good night, sir. Good night, sir. I don't know if I had asked you to listen to this this um
You did. You did.
presentation, yes, by the honorable Ralph Thorne. In He's the leader of the opposition in Parliament on Tuesday. And as we listened, and I hope the others were listening and taking notes, because we would see a big disparity between section 17 and 19. And what are your thoughts on what you've heard so far, Mr. Hines?
Well, yeah. Initially, when I first heard of it, I didn't read anything about it. I just heard it, and all the things you've mentioned came to mind immediately. That this is what the question I asked: what relationship does this have to the issues that are Gibbs and down at Bathsheba and places like that, and also to it seems kind of punitive to residents and lenient to builders and investors. And
Yes.
it is called, I mean, you just take section 17 and section 19 as the leader of the opposition did. It's a clear disparity in terms of penalties based on a person's status. I mean, that is wrong. Clearly wrong. So the issue has to be, as you said, why this bill, why now, and for whom, right? And also, to people need to understand a bill is not the law, right? So it might just be that window dressing, because oftentimes we get this in our parliament where something is legislated but never passed. So it stays there in that purgatory, and people think that there is a law when in fact there isn't. So it's yet to be seen, how this will play out, if it will indeed become an act, um, and or whether they will attempt to address Section 17 and Section 19. I mean, it's a notable disparity. I mean, it's
Notable
so obvious.
disparity, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's another section I'm seeing here. This is now Barbados Today carried this. A section 9 in this bill. People, we need to go look at this bill carefully. Where they can actually come, they can come and they can charge a homeowner up to 50,000. There's another section, right?
Wow. Yeah.
There is the power to enter private premises,
Yeah.
right? Without prior notice, in order to address conditions that mitigate or prevent flooding and draining matters. And they can determine what they think is emergency. That then that is going to be up to them. And they can come into your home, and the homeowners, it says here, robust new laws are coming that impose fines of up to 50,000 and imprisonment in a
Yeah.
raft of new offenses, right? As the government seeks to rein in the misuse of water courses, which the government is doing, misusing water courses, gullies, roadway drainage systems, and to control the impact of rain runoff and flooding due to actions of property owners and housing developers. Okay. But the whole thing is how the harshness of it is on the
Well,
homeowner, on the
it,
resident, the local person.
agreed. And Section 9, it's not properly written to ensure that it does not get abused. And
Mhm.
that's going to be the problem. I think they should, in I understand trying to address an emergency where something is about to happen and you need to stop it, and
Mhm.
therefore you need that kind of access.
You mean
But
you mean they
that's
need votes, because the whole town people,
well, I
the emergency. Listen to me. The emergency is the by-election. That
agreed,
is what.
agreed.
So they
I
run through a crappy bill because they
Yeah,
need votes in St. James North.
yeah.
That's what they want from you people. The Gibbs Gully people. All those people worrying about Gibbs Gully and Whole Town Civic Center. It's your vote that they're coming for. Continue.
Yeah, no, I agree, but you must admit though that crappy bills is just what this government has given us,
That's true.
and that is part of the issue, where when you don't have a robust opposition, which is a requirement for Westminster, you tend to get all the yes people agreeing, and nobody opposing or looking through it with a fine-tooth comb to find the discrepancies and iron them out, and therefore bring out proper legislation. So this is just another one of the bills, the many bills that this party has brought out that has so many weak points in it. Again, as this, I understand the emergency part of it, but it can be abuse, and they don't seem to take into consideration
Yeah.
that is a potential and how to address it within the law to confine this emergency, give it parameters of which to operate within, so that abuse is kept, or potential for abuse is kept to a minimum.
Yes, sir.
So
Very well
yeah,
said. And I know I took some of your time, which believe me, I'm going to give it back to you.
no problem.
I'm going to let them call in a little later, even if we break, but you will be with me till 10, I'm sure.
Yeah, no problem. Actually, I kind of like this approach where we have a discussion rather than me,
Yes,
giving
yes.
a speech or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I kind
what's
of
on your mind? I think what's on your mind. Jump in on what's on your mind, and then I'm going to throw something else at you.
one of the things on my mind, I've been mentioning this a while, is the ability of the Barbados Labour Party supporters to throw out this lost decade soundbite with impunity, and it seems to silence a lot of people when they say it. And I just wanted to let people know that the way it is said, it is all political. It is a score political points. It is to keep the opposition or anybody who opposes the Barbados Labour Party at bay, to silence them, to shut them down. There was no lost decade in Barbados in the sense that it was caused by the Democratic Labour Party. The lost decade was a global event, right? Um, I ask people, notwithstanding the macroeconomic statistics that may suggest the country is doing better now than in the 2008 to 2018 period, I ask people, those of us at the microeconomic level, do you agree? Do
Hmm.
you agree? I mean, most people will tell you, yes, things were bad during 2008 to 2018, but nothing compared to what we currently have. But yet still, the LP supporters, they come up with this thing about lost decade, and people go silent when they say that because, yeah, things were bad. But I think Barbadians should be emboldened now to say with certainty, that their position in this economy as a person, right? Compare it now to back in 2008, 2018. Notwithstanding all the macroeconomic measures that says the economy is growing at 2.5%, the IMF says it's going to grow at 3%. I'm asking Barbadians to ask themselves, where are you in this economy? Do you agree that you're going to be part of this projected growth? This macroeconomic statistic that says the economy is growing, you are in it. Do you feel that? Do you have a sense of urgency that you're going to see this improvement coming? What are you paying for petrol and other things in the retail sector? And I should say the retail sector is about 80%. The Barbadian economy comprises about 80% of consumer spending, and that's where people feel it. This is at the micro level, So the concept of the lost decade, it started in Japan. It was referred to as the lost decades, and it had to do with the ridiculous pricing the Japanese went through with various investments and assets, and it all collapsed. And this happened in the 1990s. It was a lengthy period of economic stagnation in Japan that was precipitated by this asset price bubble in 1990. And the singular term lost decade was pegged to what happened which started in the US economy with the housing crisis, right? So everybody agrees that this was a global event, right? Sean Cassidy, writing in the New York Magazine 2018, in an article titled "The Real Cost of the 2008 Financial Crisis," said the aftermath resulted in a lost decade for European economies, and it contributed to the rise of anti-establishment political movements worldwide. I mean, it happened in the US. it affected the European economies. Tourism is the biggest thing in Barbados. You don't think that it would affect Barbados as well? But of course it
Mm,
would, right?
mm,
Another writer, Adam Tooze, in 2018, he wrote a book called How a Decade of Financial Crisis Changed the World. In this book, it examines how the 2008 financial crisis started in the US housing market, but quickly spiraled into a global economic meltdown, exposing deep interconnections between the American and European financial system. The author argues that what followed was not a financial crisis, but a geopolitical, ideological turning point that reshaped global politics, economics, and power dynamics. Right? This happened, and I mean, you ask anyone. There's a saying that an older friend of mine has, that whenever America catches a sneeze, or Barbados catches a cold, right? So the effect, in essence, the effect of any economic downturn in our largest trading partners usually has significant effect on the local Barbadian economy, and that's what occurred during 2008 and 2018. Now, Barbados Labour Party supporters would point to, well, Grenada did well during that term. Why didn't Barbados? Right? Great point. Small economy, much smaller than Barbados. How come Grenada was able to weather that that decade better than Barbados? And they just stopped there. But if you investigate what was occurring in Grenada at that time, you will see that it will make sense as to why they weathered it. They went to the IMF in 2008 to 2013 under Thomas Tillman, right? And what Barbados is experiencing today is what Grenadians experienced under him, right? The next election coming up in 2014, he lost it because people were feeling the squeeze as they are now. But by that time, yes, the economy was restructured to a point that after 2018 and during COVID, Grenada was in a good position to manage that global event, right? So what I'm trying to get at here is that when those of us hear these folks refer to the last DLP government term as the lost decade, that you ought to really dismiss it for what it is, right? It was a global event. The argument was that if the Stewart administration had restructured the debt and all that good stuff, that we would not have had that. I say yes, restructuring is something that had needed to be done even during the ONAFRA terms. It should have been done a long time ago, but everybody kept pushing it down, passing the buck down to the next government, next parliament. So it had to happen at some point, and it was always going to be painful. So that's why today it is more painful. Is people at the microeconomic level is feeling it more than they did during the Stewart administration, where he sought not to go to the IMF. Some people say for political reasons. Obviously, I don't think if he had gone to the IMF, he would have been able to survive that. I mean, look what happened to Sandyford when he did the 8% cut. Nobody was willing to do that, and he strongly believed that he could have weathered the storm. That turned out not to be such a good strategy, but it was well intended. So what I'm trying to get to people is to just dismiss those people who are saying that you shouldn't look to the DLP ever again because of the lost decade. And another point to that, Stewart is no longer in the DLP. And parties change. And I have made this argument before, where the Democratic Labour Party under Barrow, under Sandyford, under Thompson, under Stewart were different parties. Likewise, the same with the Barbados Labour Party, right? There were a lot more people that were accepting of the Barbados Labour Party under Owen Arthur than there are under Mia Motley. So it's not the same party, but they like to suggest that it is the same party. It is not. The party is always shaped by the leader, and to a lesser extent, the parliamentarians that makes up the parliamentary party at the time. So 2008 is behind us. We look forward. We have fresh people coming into the political arena that if we are not satisfied with the government, we should be prepared and be confident to send them home and give somebody else an opportunity to do right. Now, bringing it home to this by-election, I think our democracy requires more opposition. I think Chad Blackman going to Parliament doesn't do anything for Barbados, doesn't do anything for St. James North, because under this current government, one person runs the country. All the others are just their seat warmers, coming out to the people and giving people the impression that democracy is working, but it really isn't. These people are doing everything that Motley wants. I mean, it's so obvious. You know, all big works must come through me, she said. You got to talk to me, she said. And we see that. So given another opportunity, or having this opportunity to bring more strength to the opposition benches would be a good thing. No, I agree. It's an uphill task. I mean, given the history, the political election history of that constituency, it's an uphill task. But it is not beyond the people to apply themselves to reason, put on the mantle of manhood and adulthood, and reason this thing through, and give an opportunity to someone who can truly represent their voice in Parliament and truly be a gatekeeper to this government. And we know that they really need it. So that piece, I just wanted to touch on that with regards to the this lost decade nonsense that these people like to put in people. It's all political. There's no
yeah. You know,
and you must dismiss it.
You must dismiss it because it is, you know, this is something that was happening globally. And
Yeah.
actually, I mean, you know, we were living here at that time, and you know, our economic situation, our financial situation, everybody knows that this is worse than then. This is worse than then. And we must remember that this government is very, very good at putting on labels and branding and do, you know, promotion and marketing, and they marketed this. You know, this is something that they came up with, and they marketed it, but it's something that was happening all over the world because of what the economies were doing. It was a global phenomenon, you know. But they have stuck it on to the DLP, and we have drunk the Kool-Aid, haven't we?
Yeah. So I mean, in America, when they had the housing crisis, that is exactly true. When the initial response to the housing crisis in America was that it was a local issue.
Yes.
You know, they played it down as a local incident. And what the Motley government has done with the same issue, you know, the lost decade global issue, is to make it a local issue in Barbados. And people bought into it. It was never a local issue. It plays well politically. As a matter of fact, I clearly remember the last sitting of the Barbados Parliament outside of Parliament, when they were repairing Parliament and they were meeting in some conference room at a hotel in Christchurch. That last budget that Motley applied to there, she said it. She said it was not really a big issue, you know. She said this. It was not a big issue. All they had to do was restructure the debt.
Yes.
That's all they had. And that's what she did, right? So how comes this was a lost decade? It was not a lost decade. It was politically expedient to say that it was a lost decade and have people buy into it, people who wouldn't necessarily investigate what this lost decade meant and just ran with it. And a lot of people bought into the soundbite. A lot of people got silenced as a result of that soundbite. It is nonsense. I mean, you cannot expect to go to the IMF and do not have hardships at the microeconomic level. That's been the standard for going to the IMF and being placed in these austerity programs that they put you in. And the same thing happened in Grenada, right? The pros were all macroeconomic measurements. The pros for Grenada going into the IMF in 2008 to 2013 under Tillman Thomas: economic stability. They had infrastructure improvements and better public financial management. Now here are the cons. The cons always always affecting the average guy. Public sector workers felt squeezed, no wage increase, job insecurity, cost of living rose, particularly due to tax increases, reduced social spending, a slower expansion in public service, and vulnerable groups, low-income households, felt the impact more acutely. Is that not happening in Barbados there under the IMF? So,
Correct.
you know, so it's I do understand why the Barbados Labour Party has to label the last government term as a lost decade, because, and hopefully that people will run with it and not really research and investigate what it really means, because there is no way to other way to defend what's currently going on, which is all at the macro level, all these big, 3% growth, and the guy still can't buy gasoline for his car. They have to do that because they have to cause you to look back, because what you're seeing in front of you and what you're experiencing around you ain't good. It's all part of what happens when you go to the IMF. And she's only able to do this. And that's why it was important, I believe, for them to work so hard to get all 30 seats, right? Because, and to at the same time, make it difficult for any other political organization to rise. That's one of the reasons why, another reason why they didn't give the $300 subvention to Atali and now to Thorn. You cannot empower the opposition because it is a tightrope they're walking with regards to.
I mean,
if the people truly see,
people don't even realize that that she took Athalie's money. She basically, this woman is something else. She took Athalie's money for the election. Athalie did not get his subvention.
Yeah, notwithstanding how the rule is written, the rule could be reinterpreted. It could be reinterpreted, right?
Yeah.
If they truly were interested in democracy and truly interested in Westminster functioning at its core, which is to have opposition within the government, right? They would have given the subvention, but they weren't capable of doing that because the potential fallout for them, knowing that they were driving a very rough economy as a result of going to the IMF, meaning that there was a likelihood, a high probability that if you had it too strong an opposition, that it would cause them more heartache, more hardship in getting their program through. And that's what this is all about, So lost decade, miss me with that one. It is nonsense. People ignore it. It has no bearing on anything today, right? We have.
Let me tell you, some people are asking you to come home to help. They need you to speak on the platform. Now, listen here. What I want you to do, I'm talking to you. And you know which ones of you I'm talking to. You're going to try to say that this man is a DLP. Some of you will even go away and say that he's a candidate or whatever. He lives in Boston. I'm talking. No, he's not talking. I'm talking. And I'm letting you know that this man was in the audience. It was a viewer that was used to cuss me. Don't look at him. Look at me. I'm telling you the truth. Okay? And he cussed Thorn and he cussed this and he cussed whatever. And let me tell you, what he's saying to you is what is. He's not running for anything. Right, Mr. Hinds?
Absolutely. As I said, my role is that of an active voter citizen. I hold that to be a higher position than being in parliament or being a politician or whatever. I have no interest, none whatsoever.
You have no interest in that. You just want to be an active voter citizen, you said.
Yeah.
You know what? I know Mr. Pedro Shepherd. Mr. Pedro Shepherd, please put on your camera if you're ready, please, so I would know if I can call you. Okay. Camera is on. So just tell us a little bit about what is active voter citizen. Well, take 2 minutes and tell us, and then hang around, and we're gonna bring you back because I'm telling you, you're shooting fire tonight. Go ahead.
Two things, right? You live in a democracy. And you have to protect that democracy. And the reason why we have a democracy is because we as human beings can't get along, but we need each other. And if you don't if you don't guard your democracy against those you put in charge, right, it is possible that they will become authoritarian and your life would be changed completely. The other is economics, obviously. Um, how much money I keep in my pocket depends on the type of legislation that is being passed, etc. And I need to know what's going on. I need to have a say in all of that. Whether my garbage gets picked up, whether my sewerage is being dealt with properly, all of that, my electricity, right? All of that depends on legislation, depends on the people legislating at whatever level. So I have a role to play in the democracy. There's a role, it's not very defined in Barbados as to what that role is, or should be. It should be better. There should be more access to governance deeper at the local level, but we could get to that at another time. But yes, if I am supposed to be a citizen and to participate in the democracy, then I need to have a say, right? And however and wherever that I'm able to do that in the Barbadian democracy, I will do so. And that's
Yeah.
by speaking out, and that's by encouraging my neighbors to seek to understand the economic environment that they live in the political environment that this is not about party, because I know people in Barbados associate politics with party.
Yes.
Ain't nothing to do with no party, because I the type of person I am and the type of loyalty that a political party requires in Barbados, we would never add up.
No.
I no, because when you're wrong, yeah, when you're wrong, and I don't care this thing about dear leader and comrade leader, and that none of that applies to me. I'm too iconoclastic to give that type of loyalty to another human being. I will never do it, right? And that's unfortunately what political parties apparently require in Barbados, that you got to be looking up to some leader as if they're some demagogue, and I would never do that. Never do that.
Yeah,
so being an active voter citizen is about me centered, my family, my neighbors, my community, my country.
Wow, this is awesome. I'm still waiting on Mr. Shepherd. I think he had a little challenge, and I'm not seeing him. So while I'm here, I got a message from a question for you to ask. They said to have you. How is important if you're speaking to those people in St. James North tonight, and I know that there are people who are listening to me from St. James North, and people, I need you to share it. If you're from St. James North and you're watching the program, share it with somebody. So that's everybody. If you're in the parts of Whole Town, I was told that it's not all of Whole Town, but there's a part of Whole Town that is in St. James North, and parts of Gibbs is in St. James North. So if you're watching and that's you're in that area, share it with somebody. Now, what would you say to the voter, to that citizen in St. James North who might say, well, I'm not even going to bother to vote. I'm not going to. Why is it important? When we think of, you spoke about democracy and you spoke about the House and how the House is made up in terms of, the opposition, one person. What would it mean to get another person inside there and talk about the power of their vote as well?
What it would mean to an individual, to those individuals, that 60% who have dismissed or turned away from voting in elections and have done so righteously as a result of they coming to the conclusion that there's no difference. I would say to you, you are correct, but here's an opportunity for you to show difference. Forget about party for a minute, right? Forget about the party and focus on the individual that's coming to you for a vote, right? Think about that for a minute. This is a good situation for you who's disgusted with the political environment in Barbados to send a message by going back to the polls and voting for this young lady who nobody really knows, right? They send that message. I keep going back to what the folks did in the state of Michigan one time when they took a pro wrestler, Jesse Ventura, made him governor. And they were like in your face to the political class, right? And that's the reason they didn't care what Jesse was going to do. They were sending a message. So if you are truly disenchanted with politics in Barbados, and you have all rights to be, right? Send them a message. They're all saying, oh, the Barbados Labour Party got St. James North locked down. What is a political party? What is a political party that this entity has you locked down? You should be disgusted with that comment. That this party, even before the election, knows that you're not either going to vote or you're going to vote for the government. You should show them, no, I'm not going to do that, because you know what? You're already disgusted. You don't see any difference between the political parties. This young lady, yes, give her a try. And as I always said, keep it local. Vote your local interests first and foremost. Let these individuals know that when you vote for them, that you're voting for them to represent you. You want them, when they are in parliament, to reflect and mention St. James North every opportunity they get. With all the issues that you have, you want to hear them being addressed in parliament. Not you're sending the body to be the minister of education. You're sending the body to be the whatever, some hierarchy in the political party. You sending them into the parliament to represent your interests, to let the leadership, let Motley and them know, let whomever know that the people in St. James North matter. And I'm saying to you that Child Blackman is not capable of doing that. Not in this current environment, not in this political party, which is being run by an authoritarian, right? She's just collecting votes and centralizing everything under her. So St. James North is going to be a backwater state, so to speak, with regards to they're getting their local interests represented through Child Blackman, because Child Blackman isn't going to parliament to represent you.
Thank you.
He's going to parliament to ensure that Motley gets to continue doing what she is doing as she sees fit. Now, if you vote for this young lady, right, she has no choice. If she wants to see Parliament the next 5 years after her term, she has to do right by you. She has to walk that constituency, not only to get your vote, she has to walk that constituency for the 5 years to get it for the next election. Otherwise, you can vote she out, right? You have nothing to lose. You have a lot to gain by breaking with the tradition of going with another BLP person who's using you as a stepping stone to get something within the political party and within parliament. He's not there to represent you. He's there to be a minister. And as you know already, a lot of these guys and gals, when they get their ministerial portfolios, they forget about representation. And that is likely to happen with Child Blackman. It is less likely to happen with this young lady. Give her a chance.
Because she doesn't have a ministry. And let me tell you something about her. She is an advocate. You can tell you when she hold on to something. This is a woman that a lot of people don't remember, but she is the woman who actually got lawyers outside of Barbados to represent parents in Barbados, when they put that sex test to the children. This is a woman. And so what you're saying there is making sense. That really and truly, I mean, you broke it down really nicely. She doesn't have a ministry. So when she goes in there, all of those Gibbs Gully issues and the issues with her section of Whole Town, because there's Whole Town is part of her, part of Whole Town is hers. You don't believe she gonna fight that? Let me tell you.
I would be the first to jump down her throat, so to speak, if she gets into parliament and become just like a BLP politician,
Adrian,
who thinks that ministerial portfolios matters more than people. And I don't see that in her. I see her. I mean, she's not in parliament. She's just a member of a political party. And I see her every little cockfight. They went down at Lysandra when there was some issue down there. She was down there. I see her all over the place advocating on people's behalf. That is the type of representation that you want, right? That is it. And I don't see Chad Blackman doing that, Mr. Idi Amin. I don't see him doing that. I don't see him doing that at all. I don't think he's capable of doing that, right? This is a stepping stone. St. James North is a stepping stone for him to get something on your backs. He is no Royal Eastman. He's no Mr. Hinkson. These are people, from what I've gathered from St. James North, are people who, to some extent, demonstrated the art of political represent or constituency representation, right? You know, Chad Blackman's not going to do that. He's incapable of doing it. Incapable. He's too aloof to be the type of representative that St. James North is accustomed to. I'm sorry, but that's how I see it. I think this young lady would do a better job. You know, I know the guys who done Western, I like to go in the rum shop and stuff, might not say it that way because I know Felicia can go in there and drink a rum with them. But come on, guys, you know.
Yeah. Do something different. Do something different.
Yeah,
and because you can't, you know what, you're not getting any representation now anyway. There are people
exactly.
who said they haven't seen Mr. Hinkson in 20 years that he's been there. He's never done anything for them. People have messaged me. So really and truly, I mean, if she goes in, the reality is that she's not going to be, she don't have a portfolio, she don't have a ministry. Yeah. All she has is to keep pushing away those developers out of St. James North. And that's what because of how she is, she gonna fight. You know, that's who yeah. But it's what do
you have to lose, St. James North? What do you have to lose? Right. And I hope I heard Ms. Dujon said that she still has her boots and that she plans to walk the constituency. I hope she does. Go to every area. There's no BLP area and DLP area. Go to every household and let them know you're there to represent. Yes, some people you can hear a lot of no's, but you know, some of the most successful people in the world will tell you that they hear a lot of no's and that's why they succeed. So just do that. Get out there and put on those shoes. Maybe you should do a video. She should do a video of her walking in her boots throughout the constituency.
Yes,
Stuff
yes.
like that matters.
I think I'm going to go down with my camera and try to help her help tomorrow. And because CBC is not going to go.